What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of Uncalled for. I guess it'd be -1.
Uncalled for -1.
Uncalled for -1.
-1 because John is having to take care of
dead.
his kid. Yeah,
He's dead.
He died, and actually Tim died as well.
Yep,
so
they're both gone.
we are down 2 from last week. So this is going to be a little bit different. We're still going to do 4 topics. Everything's going to be the same, just like we do every Monday night, 7 p.m. Central Time, right here on Twitch, and then uploading to YouTube weekly, where we get together and just talk about nonsense, I guess, for the most part, or some serious stuff, some funny stuff, but it just seems like it's nonsense a lot of the time,
It's nonsense.
which I like, though.
That's nonsense.
Unless we're talking about birds, and then we get real deep.
Yeah,
That's
truth.
true.
Truth.
That's very true. So I think what we're going to do then is we'll just start off with Dan. You know, Dan, what you didn't tell me what your topic was, and I am kind of curious. He led off before with Jordan won't be able to talk much during this, so I don't know what it's going to be.
I mean, you can talk plenty, you just won't care probably that much.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
As you know, you probably don't. You find people out there, but me and Weston are big fans of the comic books and the superheroes and the movies that have them in it. So, big MCU fans. I appreciate the DCU too. But one seems to outpace the other in quality.
Leaps and bounds.
Why is that?
Okay, so that's a discussion.
How you doing, Jordan?
Oh, I'm doing great. So my first thought was immediately when you say MCU, I wanted just to piss people off and say, are you talking about the Muppet Cinematic Universe or the Minecraft universe? And either one of those two.
Muppets,
The
totally.
Muppet
totally,
Cinematic
totally
Universe.
Muppets.
Okay.
Actually, no, I'm pretty sure we're talking about Minecraft here, aren't we?
Yeah, that one too.
Could be either one.
Especially when we're discussing DC in comparison.
That is true. That is true.
You know?
Actually, I can kind of have opinions on this because
You can. You've seen a few that we've dragged you to.
I've seen a few movies, yeah. So I can talk a little bit, but not near as much as these two. So overall, yes, Marvel is way better, but I think DC actually has the best movies. When you think about The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, I love those.
We're not talking about Nolan. That's
that's
completely separate.
That'd be DC though.
Yes, but it's not in the
part
same
of the DCU
instance of
So they changed the whole
extended
universe
cinematic
then?
universe.
So the Dark Knight trilogy is kind of its own sub-universe, if you will, like its own dimension of it. It's a pocket of DC. The DCU and how I'm understanding here is going to be more like the Justice League, the Superman or Man of Steel, I think is what it's technically going to be referred to as, and the Wonder Woman, and those that actually tie together in that cinematic universe.
Okay.
So.
Yep. So we're not talking about Nolan because we could go. That's a whole different conversation.
Okay, well then I'm gonna be real. I have not seen any of the DC movies that you guys are gonna be
That's
talking
okay.
about.
A lot of them are garbage. So
I know I have in the closet right here. I have all the Dark Knight trilogy on Blu-ray.
As you
Absolutely love
should.
it. My favorite movie series,
Fantastic.
possibly ever. I mean,
Space Jam.
I said movie series.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
it's either because Space Jam is my favorite movie, and then we have for series it's either Star Wars or the Dark Knight trilogy because they're both just fantastic. And then I think one of my other favorite movies would be The Other Guys, which is just flawless. But that's not part of this conversation at all, so we'll stay out of this.
Moving on.
So, one thing I will say is, while the DCU does pretty much suck, to say the least, now it does have a few good movies in there. But as a whole, I think what their problem is the way Marvel started off. They started out by building up each character individually, made you actually have some level of concern for them, you understood them, and then they put them together. With the DCU, they kind of slapped them all together and then threw them out at you. And you don't really care about them as individuals unless you've already read the comics. And even then, these specific iterations of them, I didn't really care about them when the movie came out. You know, it's like, so this is the current Flash. I had never had any experience with this Flash before from the Justice League movie. And it's like, do I like this one or not? I don't know. I have to decide while trying to decide whether I like all the other characters at the same time. With the Avengers movie, I already knew each of the central characters before I got there. I had some understanding of them, their abilities, how they actually factored together into this.
They had origins before.
Exactly. And so I actually cared about each of them during that movie. DC, they're going backwards.
You
It's like
started with your team movie before you got your origins, and it kind of threw people off.
It threw me a lot off.
Yeah.
Like, I knew the characters before, but not these specific characters or iterations of them. So
That makes sense. Yeah, that I get that. Because I know, since we can't talk about the Dark Knight trilogy, I haven't seen the new ones because I've just heard that they're not good. So like,
That's all right.
Justice League, I heard no one liked it. There's a few people here and there that liked it. I can't say
It
nobody
wasn't-
because
it wasn't
there's always
good.
gonna be that one person that's watching. Well, I liked it, so
Although
you
the
can't
Schneider
say no
cut
one.
was much better.
I actually have that on my computer. I just haven't.
I think it's actually worth watching.
I
the
just
Schneider
haven't
cut,
had the
for
time
sure.
to sit down for 4 hours and watch it yet.
But yeah,
But I know, like with Marvel, that it did help with the origin story stuff, and even then, like for Avengers, there's a lot of characters because I'm not huge into comic books. I mean, you guys know me well enough.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy movies when I sit down with friends and watch them, but it's not something I'm going to do on my own. And so when we got together, it was every Friday, right? For a while, we watched a lot of the Marvel movies, so I watched quite a few of them then.
yeah, we watched them
And-
all in order up until Endgame.
Yeah, and so I didn't see all of them. I had to miss a few weeks. So I mean, I've seen quite a few of the Marvel movies now, and they were all just so good. Like you were saying, they were fantastic. I've never heard almost never have heard a bad thing about them. Everyone's
Sure.
like, yeah, it's great. You
good.
you gotta, like, you have to see this, you have to see that because this is awesome, this is awesome, this is awesome, and it introduces all those characters. So once I went and saw, I guess it'd be Infinity War was the
one
first-
before Endgame.
Yep.
yeah, that was the one I saw then, and I was actually, I think I actually saw that first, and then went back and watched it because we went as a big group, and then I watched all the Marvel movies, and then Endgame is when I watched them all before Endgame. So I actually appreciated Endgame a heck of a lot more than Infinity War because I knew who people were. I still haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy though.
Nick would be very disappointed in
I
you.
still-
most assuredly.
I still have not seen that.
That's all right. We'll remedy that sometime.
We will. We
But
will.
That's definitely a good point of the origins first before team movie before origins. But I think there's a lot more that we can discuss and why. There's some of the obvious stuff. I think the writers and the vision at Marvel is just so much better than what's going on at the DC side of things. I think DC saw a cash cow and they wanted in on it. They had their own side of things they could have done, and they just jumped in trying. They thought it'd be easy, and they wanted the money. They didn't necessarily.
They didn't care about the universe.
Yeah, I guess. I think they were ahead of themselves. They made movies before they understood what they wanted. The end goal was for the universe. I think Marvel with Kevin Feige has a vision and knows what he wants, and had years and years and years and years down the line knowing what he wants.
Yeah.
And that worked out very well for the Marvel side. I also think that Marvel knows its fans and audience a lot better than DC does. I think it gives care to its fans more than DC does.
Now this is completely random, but who owns Marvel and who owns DC? Does Disney own one of them?
Disney owns Marvel.
Marvel.
now.
They own
Yeah.
Marvel, and then DC would be Fox?
Warner Brothers?
Is it Warner
Warner
Brothers?
Brothers usually makes
I
them.
think
Okay.
Fox is now under DC as well, or not DC, Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
Marvel and Disney got
Okay.
Fox. So
Okay. So do you think? Obviously, then I mean, Warner Brothers is kind of. No, they used to do all the like cartoons, like Looney Tunes and stuff, right? Like that was all them. So. Do you think they're more of a comedy thing than a serious movie, and that might have something to do with it?
I don't know about that, but I will say this: the DC animated movies are
we're going to
phenomenal.
get into that one, but
So
we're going to get into that
that's
one.
a different.
But
That's a
we're
different
we're
brand.
strictly
but-
just talking about
So
the
they
live action
suck at
movies
live
right
action.
now.
Yeah, really.
But yes, that's fantastic, and that's another point that I was going to get into. The DC's animated TV shows and films are fantastic. Check them out if you are interested in any of that stuff. But
But for keeping to live action.
yeah. Even, I don't know. I read this article. I can't remember. It was from a director. I don't know if it was Tim Miller or someone else talking about why DC didn't work and Marvel did in live action movies and film. And he said that the heroes just weren't made for TV and movie in DC.
So they were just made more for comic book then.
Like, think about it. I don't know. I mean, you don't know how much you totally know about comic book characters and stuff, Jordan, but DC is really overpopulated with the alien side of things, and it's super beyond greater than life, bigger than life, like heroes. You know Superman, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's awesome.
They're not.
And Superman 64, one of the best games ever. Kidding, but no, anyways.
But they're not all that relatable to the normal person. What's the real big one that is? Batman?
Yeah.
And you notice that he's done well.
And that's why the Dark Knight trilogy is one of the best movie
Yes.
series ever made.
Not just because it's Batman, but Nolan came with an idea.
His vision was great.
His vision was to make this more realistic.
Yeah.
That this could actually, I mean, if you had this crazy billionaire with all this stuff going on, that's a genius. This could actually happen in the world. 1 in a million chance, but it could,
Yeah.
That's why not everyone's flying around with superpowers and stuff
Now,
in the Nolan trilogy. But
But are you arguing then that Marvel universe that could happen? Like I feel like if you're gonna say that about the Batman stuff, you almost have to say it. And I get Iron Man, rich billionaire genius, but
I'm saying that the Marvel characters in general are just more relatable to people.
Well, and I'm going to say this. I actually look at the characterizations themselves, not just the powers and abilities, but how they've actually designed the characters themselves, their backstories, their personalities, their flaws. Look at Superman. What are his actual flaws, really?
a rock.
I mean, but yeah, look at his personality, though. What are his actual flaws, besides the fact that he's too perfect to be himself, really? And he's kind of naive. That's kind of his great weakness.
His only limits are those that he's put on himself.
Exactly. And it's like, how does that...
He's literally God. Like, you can't do anything against him.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it fun to watch someone who doesn't even struggle with anything? Like,
Because the special effects in the movies are cool.
I mean, I love Man of Steel. It's actually a pretty good movie.
I did
It
see
is,
Man of
but-
Steel. I went to the drive-in theater and I saw it
It's actually a
there.
pretty good movie. But
But
now when I look at Marvel, okay, right here, Marvel poster boy, Spider-Man. He's my boy.
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man was the first Marvel character to come out and really have real-world issues, human issues. He was
Yeah.
Spider-Man. He was this, bigger-than-life character who gave his everything to save people for the greater good,
Yeah.
with great responsibility, or with great power, great responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
But he was also Peter Parker, and he struggled with getting rent. He struggled with making it on time to school and passing classes. He struggled with all of his relationships and jobs and all of that stuff.
Yeah, he was not very, very good pizza delivery
All
boy.
because he gave that up because he knew Spider-Man was needed, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Pizza time.
give me rent.
And then you look at that's actually true of most all of the Marvel heroes. They
To an
all
extent,
have
yeah.
those quirks that are relatable. But I see a lot of the DC heroes that
Dang
are
right,
just...
I'm a Spidey kid. Sorry.
But yeah, I look at DC and I don't see a lot of that. I see a lot of Superman. I see Martian Manhunter. I see the
Green Lantern, Wonder
Green
Woman.
Lantern. Really, probably, I would say the most relatable character in DC is Batman, and even
sure.
then, he's hard to connect with at certain levels. Now, he remains my favorite superhero, but I will be the first to concede that I think Marvel's heroes are better designed.
I mean,
from a character
I sometimes
perspective.
feel like I relate to the Joker pretty well.
Ha, ha, ha.
Jerk.
Moving on. But yeah, and you said even Batman's a little hard to relate. I think that's because
I mean,
Batman is his true self, not Bruce Wayne.
Exactly.
But moving on, I guess that's just my thoughts. You can agree, you can disagree, but Marvel just works more for the cinema side of things. DC just, I don't know, it's too unrealistic.
And
No, I get
That's
it.
a very vague term, but
You
you know
know-
what I'm
And I
saying.
think that's part of why it does better in the animated movies.
Yeah.
Is because of its extremity.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a weird point of view on it as well, but like when I saw Man of Steel, I was like,
Sure.
okay, this movie is awesome. All the special effects were super cool. But I couldn't help but think, I almost feel like went out of his way when they made that movie to make the end fight a lot more dramatic than it needed to be. Because I think about how many billions of dollars of damage they caused and how many hundreds of thousands of people they murdered in that end fight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, was that necessary or was that just for the
What
the
else
screen?
would happen though? It's Superman.
Well, no, I get it, but it was like, I almost feel like with two guys that could survive in space, they probably could have been like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna lift you up here and we're gonna fight up there, away from all these people.
Yeah.
I don't remember the movie too well.
When
I
one
just
has the
remember
same
thinking
powers and has no care, and the
Yeah.
other one does, what do you get? But
I just
you also
remember
have to
thinking
ask
that.
yourself after that, where do you go from there?
Mm-hmm.
Superman, literal god, facing Zod, literal god.
Yeah,
Where do you go from there? You can't step up and up and up with that kind of stuff, and that's why it's so hard.
Yeah, I mean, you're right.
That's why there was issues with Captain Marvel in the Marvel MCU, because she's like Superman right now. She has to be depowered, and she has to have issues.
See, I heard there was
to
a
come
lot
up.
of issues with Captain Marvel,
So,
not just that.
We're not getting into that.
We're not. That's an entirely different conversation.
And that's why they couldn't do that much with her, in the later films, because it'd be too easy.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that goes. We got new phases of the Marvel cinematic universe coming out, and we'll see what happens. But I don't know. It's just an interesting topic.
Yeah, for
In
sure.
my
I
mind.
agree. So
So I'm gonna kind of just we can move on to mine. If
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want. I'm
go
gonna
for it.
piggyback
Go.
off of Dan.